Hey, it's Dave Cribbs, lead trainer here at Auto Dealer University, and welcome to your Workout Wednesday. Today we're going to talk about making the car the star, making the car the star. Now, that's a big thing on my radar, if you will, in the sales process. And the simple reason is because we know, we've all agreed before and prior, and if you're not a student of Auto Dealer University, I think you'll agree with me, that virtually no one crosses or pulls the trigger or closes a deal or takes delivery of a new vehicle until they've crossed a plane in their mind. The customer, that is. They've crossed a plane in their mind where they now know, hey, this is the car, this is the place, this is the right timing, this is the deal, I'm moving forward. Now, here's the unique opportunity, is that oftentimes the customer, at least emotionally with the car itself, they will cross the plane when it comes to the car. Not necessarily all the other details yet, but I've got to get them over this hump. I've got to make the car the star so that they cross the plane in their mind and they determine during my presentation that, yes, I know I would like to own this car, right? Nothing else is going to compare based on this new information I've just been exposed to. So what's the new information? It's the actual demonstration of our product, of our car, right? This is our opportunity to really allow the car to pull the customer in with our amazing $1 million presentation, right? Not only that, but look at all the benefits that we receive as well. It's not just about making the car the star, it's the fact that during making the car the star, if we're creating this $1 million presentation, it also means that there's value being built the whole entire time. So it's not just about the customer falling in love with the car. That's the biggest part of it. But the other part is also increasing the value in their mind so that when I go and sit down to write up this deal, that the method of payment, the cost of the car, all of that becomes a little bit more of a formality than the actual big decision, right? So I want them to make the big decision on the car, right? So that's why I got to make the car the star. It's my opportunity really to make sure that I'm a better closer when I get inside because I'm obviously going to get better results. I think we could all agree on that. In fact, I'll even just say this. Look, if you lined up 100 people and at one dealership with the same car and lined up another 100 people with the same car right down the street, and at the first dealership only 40 or 50 or 60 of those 100 people actually got in the car and drove it and got a great walk-around demonstration, I think that you would agree that if the next store where we had 100 people, if 90 of those or 100 of those got in the car and actually experienced the entire $1 million presentation, who would close more deals? That is a no-brainer. Okay, point made. Now let's look at how can we make the car the star? How can I get better at presenting my vehicle and my product? Well, the first thing is to do some research, right? Let's do some research. Now that might sound simple, but I'm gonna elaborate a little bit more detail as to help you out as to where to go to do some research, right? The first thing is the obvious, right? Our own manufacturer, our own product, right? We're going to have all kinds of information, literature. We can go online. We can find all the stuff that the factory has given us as far as collateral for support. We can ask our friends and neighbors called other salespeople and other management, right? About any questions we may have on the car, how to build that amazing value. But I'm going to also share with you another great resource. If you simply go on YouTube and punch in, walk around on your car. Let's say it's a 2021, Honda Accord, right? If you go on there, you're going to see some amazing walk-arounds, some amazing demonstrations. But here's the interesting part, is that you're going to see not only a great walk-around, but it's going to expose additional things that you maybe not even may not have been exposed to or even have read about with your own product presentation. So the point to that is going on YouTube. When I say research, let's look at YouTube. Let's look at YouTube. I'm going to give you a great example of this, by the way. I recently went out to a Honda store not long ago, and that's probably why I used the Honda as an example. But I went online and I said, okay, let's see if there's anything new that I'm missing in my walk around or presentation. And since I'm going to a Honda store, let's see what's new with Honda, right? So how do I find that? So I went on YouTube and I looked there, and I'm looking for two things really, right? I'm looking for actual walk-arounds where individual salespeople, by the way, are building their brand on YouTube, and these walk-arounds are just part of that that equation, and that's a whole nother training. Make sure you're building your brand. You have the same opportunity. But here's the interesting thing. The other area that I'm looking at is not just walkarounds, but then actually researching what's the factory production look like? In other words, when that car rolls down the assembly line that's being put together, the one that I'm selling, by the way, that I'm going to walk around and point things out, I need to know, hey, what happens at that factory? What is so unique and so special? And as a matter of fact, when we present our car, this is just a little bit of a word track I'm going to share with you, right? When you're presenting your car, make sure that you introduce the car and say this. Mr. Customer, right? Hey, this is the 2021 Honda Accord. And by the way, most people at this point, I think you would agree, are already familiar, right? Number one, if we use an example of an Accord, you have a lot of repeat buyers. You also have kind of a world, global recognition already of Honda's great quality. But we don't want to assume everything, but what we do want to do is give the customer credit in that word track. So what I'm going to share with the customer, because they probably already know a lot about the car, and this could go with any brand, by the way, but I'm going to say, hey, Mr. Customer, let me introduce to you the 2021 Honda Accord. It's likely that you've done a lot of research and you may know a lot about the car, but there's some things that are unseen and that you often can't even find in your research. Let me share with you a couple of things about my car that separate it from all the rest of the cars on the market, that separate it from all the rest of the cars on the market, right? And now I'm going to go into a walk around. But let me share with you the one thing that I discovered. This is just an example. There were many, but one thing I discovered through watching a walk around with a gentleman talking about the factory process, by the way. And oh, here's another lesson. Only took me about 5 minutes to do this on YouTube prior to walking into the Honda store and sharing something that was like a revelation when I did the walk around to half of the staff. In fact, I'd say more than half of the staff wasn't aware of this. But with a Honda, as it goes down the assembly line, there is a lot of quality control, as you might imagine. Now, one of the things that the assembly workers are not only allowed to do, but as part of their process, is that they need to look at what was just installed in the car prior to their station, and they have to take a marker and mark off. They make a little spot on that particular part that was just assembled by the person before them. Now, what's interesting about that is when you lift the hood of a Honda, you can see those magic marker marks. You can see the red dots or whatever color they were. I don't even remember. But the point is, I watched the video. I went over to the store. I lifted the hood, and there they are, right? So the lesson there is that stuff is available to us. And look at us. We're salespeople, right? We got to know this. Wow, I'm going to get off my high horse there. But that's just a simple example of one thing. Now, when I'm presenting that product, now I get to tell that story. Hey, I'm sure you're aware. Again, I'm giving customer the credit. I'm giving customer the credit. You see, I'm feeding into, in a sense, a little bit of their ego, but mostly I'm showing them that they have value, that, I'm giving them credit for being intelligent, doing their research, knowing some things, all that good stuff. So I'll say to the customer, Mr. Customer, as you may already know, this is another thing this is another reason why Honda is held in such high esteem when it comes to quality, reliability, dependability, all that stuff. So I'm going to mix those in to my walk around. But let's start again. In fact, let's just go right here. Number 2, walk around, right? Obviously, we got to do our research. Now it's the walk around. I'm just really messing that up. You can tell that this is off the cuff because we're not going to edit this out. Walk around, right? We're going to do a walk around. And you may say, Dave, yeah, I get it. I'm going to do a walk around. But let's really think about this. I used an example earlier about the percentage of demo rides, right? And I guarantee you, it doesn't matter what store that we look at across the country and also into Canada, we're going to see every store has, at the end of the day, they're going to have a percentage of people that actually were presented the car with an actual walk around, and then there's going to be a percentage that actually got in the car and drove it, and then of course there's going to be a percentage that buy. So my point to that is I personally am a real stickler, not because I'm a trainer, not because I'm trying to teach a lesson, but because when I'm on the lot and I have a customer walk in, and by the way, it doesn't matter what position you're in the store. Let me just clarify that. I know in most cases right now I'm speaking to salespeople, but you are a salesperson for the rest of your career. Whether you are a closer, a new car manager, used car manager, general sales manager, or general manager, even owner, right? If no matter what the position I'm in, if I come in to talk with a customer and the customer hasn't driven the car, hasn't gotten the proper walk around presentation of that car, I'm going back there. I'm going back there not because I'm trying to teach someone a lesson, but because I legitimately know that it's going to be tougher for me to close that deal. So why would I not put every single person in the car? By the way, we kind of have an ethical obligation to do that. Now, I know what you're thinking. A lot of customers do come in, hey, I don't need to drive the car. I know exactly what I want. And they may know exactly what they want. And I'm not going to mess up the deal by forcing them to do something they don't want to do. But here's how we transition. That's actually going to be number 3. I'm going to wait because I'm going to put transition to demo. Transition to demo. Okay, because we really do have to make the car the star 100% of the time. Another theme in Auto Dealer University. Everything we do in our process that we agree is the right thing to do, we do 100% of the time. Whole nother big training on that, but really you should think about that in your sales process every single day. Are you doing the same thing that works tremendously 100% of the time? Ask yourself that question. Okay, let's get back on point. Number 2. We're still on number 2, actually, even though we wrote in number 3, and we'll get to that. So number 2 is the walk around, right? Let me give you some tips when it comes to the walk around. Here's the good news. Here's the really good news, because I know not only do we have a huge lineup typically on a new car side as far as the number of models and makes and different configurations that we have that we can learn about, but then of course if we consider pre-owned cars, man, it really covers everything on the market, right? So how can I be an expert at everything? Here's how you can do it. Here's the really good news. If you can nail down one walk around, it works on any vehicle that you can imagine. Now let me share with you something, and I hate to tell war stories, but this goes back a while. But my very first walk around 30 years ago was 1989. Silly, right? 32 years ago now, or 31 years ago. But the point is, my very first walk around, it was a Toyota Corolla. And I remember distinctly, my sales manager came out and he actually took a TO for me and did a walk around. Oh, did I not mention that earlier, by the way? That no matter what your position is, you're always a salesperson? Yeah, so he was a sales manager, and yet he reverted right to that demo presentation, right? So not only did I learn from it, but obviously it needed to be done to capture that customer, right? So I'm standing there and I'm watching my new mentor in the business do this walk around. And the very same thing that I just shared with you, he shared 30 years ago, which was, hey, let me share with you a couple of things that really separates our car from the rest on the market. Obviously, and by the way, it was Toyota. And at that time, Toyota really was. There's a lot more parity now in the marketplace. That's good news for everyone. Cars have gotten so much better. But back in the 80s, Toyota, Honda, some of those names were really far ahead in quality. Now, of course, there's so much more parity and so many more models. It's a really close race. So the point, though, is that he said to the customer, as I'm sure you know, or I'm sure you're familiar with Toyota's unbelievable reputation, let me share a couple things that separate our car from the rest of the market and why that really is the case, right? So of course now I've created curiosity from the customer. Well, what is so different? It makes sense. Yes, Toyota has this high quality standard. That's why we're here. We've heard about Toyotas and they seem to be great cars from all Consumer Reports, all that good stuff. But now you're about to tell me why they're different. Now I've got the customer's attention, right? And here's the really cool thing is he lifted the hood on the car and he began to point out the safety features of the car. First, let me start by sharing how safe this car, the measures that Toyota has taken, right? How about that as a word track? The measures that they've taken. And by the way, Mr. Customer, these are things that are typically unseen. So imagine the care in the manufacturing of the things that we do think about. These are things that aren't even typically seen. Now, first of all, let's start up here with the bumper. Let me explain how the bumper works and protects you, and the mileage rating for the crashes, all this stuff, right? So he went into a couple of those things. But then he looked over on the side and he shared with them, hey, here you see these little indentions here in the metal here in the quarter panel. This is underneath the hood, by the way. Yeah, those are called crumple zones. In fact, what happens and how that works is if there's an impact in the front, and if the impact is great enough that it makes its way back, these crumple zones, ironically, by the way, are actually little weak spots in the metal. They're designed to bend, right? Bend like an accordion, right? So that the energy of the impact is slowed down. When they bend, by the way, the energy of the impact is channeled in all different directions away from the cab or the cabin of the vehicle. Now, what that does for you, obviously, Mr. Customer, is by the time it reaches further down the car, that energy has subsided a great deal, hopefully completely. And by the way, here's some other safety measures that go along with that, right? The drop away or breakaway motor mounts that allows the motor to actually drop down to the ground instead of being pushed up through the firewall into the cabin, right? Now, here's why I share this with you. I'm going to stop there. Here's why I share this with you. What year was it that those safety measures were done? It was 1989 when I saw the first demo. Now, I don't know how long they had been in place prior to that, but I can tell you this. We're showing the same things today in 2021. Now, when we show, here's the lesson here, and here's the value, is that when we show our car right now in 2021 and we lift the hood and we show those safety measures, it feels like it's something relatively new. Why does it feel that way? Because the customers receiving that information are seeing it really for the first time oftentimes. They may have heard this, they may know about it, they may have heard things about it, but the point is, most of them, when you show them that, it seems innovative, and it seems like it, is some state-of-the-art feature, and yet it's very, very old. The point is that the customer begins to see those things as value, and they begin to take mental ownership of the car. This is why I've got to make the car the star, right? It seems redundant to us, or maybe that someone's going to already know the information, but believe me, when they see it, remember earlier I said, hey, this is what separates my car from others. I am going to get into some things that separate my car as far as uniqueness, but when the customer sees that, even though it's on every car, they have this automatic impression that this is the only car that has these features, oftentimes. Now, the good news is, when I said earlier that you do one walk around, you can do them on any vehicle. Remember, those safety features have been in place forever. They're pretty much government standard. They're on every vehicle. So when I'm showing those, and I still want to show them because there really is something there that protects the family, right, or that driver. So when you do that walk around, and again, I just encourage you to do some research, watch some walk-arounds, and then you can do it on every single car that's on your lot, right? Okay, let's talk about transitioning to the demo, because we already talked about the big idea here, right? Is that I want to increase my closing ratio. I'm going to be able to do that when I make the car the star, not only from the perspective of having the customer cross the plane and go, oh my gosh, I want this car, right? I want a Honda Accord. I don't want anything less. This car seems to have everything and more. And the reason they come to that conclusion is because you've just done that $1 million presentation. But further, even further than the fact that they're crossing the plane with the car that they want, is the fact that now you've increased the value of that car. So now I've got two more amazing things on my side when I sit down to negotiate this deal and serve numbers. But let's play devil's advocate. You're going to say, but wait a minute, Dave, what about the customer that says, I don't need to drive the car, I don't need to know anything, I already know what I want, hey, let's just get to the price, or let's go ahead and figure out how to get in this car, give me the rest of the details, right? Okay, so what we have to do as salespeople is figure out how to transition to that demo, right? How to transition to that demo without not only upsetting the customer, but most importantly, we don't want to take 5 steps backward if the customer is already kind of ready to go. So here's how I'm going to handle that. Every single car deal I do, I put the customer in the car before we really sign off on the final figures. The only exception is when I have someone that's maybe we've worked a deal over the phone, they're coming in from another area, and we already ironed out all the details. But even then, before they come to sign the final paperwork and take delivery or go into the business office, if they haven't already done that over the internet, the one thing I'm going to do is put them in the car prior to the actual delivery. And here's how we do that in the middle of a deal. Here's how we transition into a demo when someone is, just focused on moving forward with the price or getting the final details or whatever. All I'm going to say to the customer is absolutely, Mr. Customer, we can do that. We make it very simple and easy for you here. It's one of the reasons, here's another word track, by the way, from another training. It's one of the reasons I chose to work here is that it really is simple for the customer. It really helps me. It makes my job easier, right? One of the reasons I chose to work here. I could use that word track, by the way, in any part of the process or the dealership, and it adds credibility. Who are they buying from, by the way? Or what are they buying? They're buying the product, they're buying you, and they're buying the dealership, right? That's what they're buying. So it gives me an opportunity to plant that seed and lend credibility that this is a great place. Because most people would agree that if it's a great place to work, it's a great place to buy from. Okay, so I'm always going to insert that in. So when I say that, hey, we'll make it real simple, we'll make it real easy. In fact, that's kind of what we're known for. It's one of the reasons I chose to work here. It just makes my job easier. Let's do this, Mr. Customer. I'll go ahead and get you that information. I happen to know that the car is actually here. I just want to touch it and make sure that there hasn't been anything added to the car that we're unaware of. I don't want to have any surprises. I also want to make sure, because the car's been here for a couple of weeks, I want to make sure no one has dented or dinged the door, had a scratch or anything. If you'll just do a real quick physical inspection with me, let's go take a look, right? I'm going to go to that car. See, if I'm interested in buying the car, even if I'm trying to get through the numbers quickly, if you just planted the seed that it's a possibility that there could be something I'm about to buy or about to purchase that could have a flaw, right? Let's just verify that it doesn't have any flaws, right? I am all on board as a customer with that. I'm going to go take a look at the car. Now, when we get over to the car, and this is another training, go take a look at 100% demo rides. You'll get some great ideas right there in our platform. But the idea is that once we get over to the car, we're going to take a physical. I'm going to do exactly what I just shared with the customer that I was going to do, right? I'm not going to mislead them, but I do have plans to go a little further in this process. So I go with the customer. We walk around the car. We check it out. I just ask them to kind of look down the side, make sure you don't see anything. I'm going to look also 2 sets of eyes, right? Make sure we don't have any scratches. Be careful when it's under the lights. You got to really look. Let's take a look on the hood. Let's take a look at the roof. Sometimes they're on those trucks, and when they lower them, sometimes they might get a little dent on the roof from the truck. So we're going to check that out. So we're going to do all that, right? And then I'm going to go over to the window sticker, and I'm just going to verify everything is exactly what we're talking about. There's nothing that needs to be added or taken off the car. I'm going to verify that. And then I'm going to open that passenger door. Yeah, that's right. I'm going to open that passenger door, and I'm just going to say to the customer, Mr. Customer, there's one more thing I want to share with you that most people don't know about the camera or the Accord. There's one more thing I want to share with you that most people don't know about the Accord. The reason I say it that way is I want the customer to understand, even though they know everything about the car, and I've acknowledged that they know everything about the car, there's one more thing that most people don't know. Here, let me share that with you. Go ahead, sit right there. And I'm going to close that door. I'm going to go over to the driver's side. I'm going to start the car up if it hasn't already, but I will likely already have it running. And what I'm going to, with the AC on or the heat on, whatever, to make the car comfortable inside. And then I'm going to say, Mr. Customer, I'm going to share one thing. I'm going to put it in gear for 1 second. I'm going to put it in gear for 1 second. Here, put your seatbelt on real quick. Put your seatbelt on real quick. You see, I'm just leading, right? I'm leading in a natural way. The customer's already engaged in the car at this point. It's the car they're going to buy. They've already walked around it. They're already starting to feel that, take mental ownership and look at this car as their own. Now I'm about to share something that they don't even know about the car, so their curiosity level is through the roof. And when I say, hey, I'm going to put it in drive for 1 second, they don't know what's coming. What is coming? The demo ride, right? That's what's coming, because when I say, here, put your seatbelt on real quick, He or she's going to put their seatbelt on, and I'm going to say, I want you to just listen. See, I'm going to say this all together at one time. That way I get no possible objection. I'm just moving fluidly. So let's rewind this, right? Go around the car. The last thing I do is check the window sticker, make sure everything is, we don't have to add or take anything away. We've already checked the physical appearance of the car. I said, one more thing I want to share with you here. Sit right here. Boom. I go over to the driver's side, and I say, Mr. Customer, there's one more thing that most people don't know about the car. It's pretty cool, and I'm gonna put it in drive 1 second. Go ahead and put your seatbelt on, and I just want you to listen. You see, that's how I get no objection. You see, I just want you to listen and hear this as I take my foot off the brake. As I take my foot off the brake, right? So now I'm gonna just coast out, and now I'm gonna begin to accelerate slightly. Music is down, radio's down, air's down, and I'm just gonna say, listen, listen. And then I'm going to look over to the customer and say, do you hear that? And the customer's going to say either, hear what, or I don't know. And then I'm going to say, exactly. I said, here's the thing about this new car, is that one of the things that they really put a lot of effort in this year, because basically almost every manufacturer does this, right? This is a goal of theirs, to make the car quiet inside. This is a great segue into that demo ride, and will make sense to the customer. You're also pushing up the value. You're making the car the star, and you're making this little road trip that they weren't even expecting or weren't necessarily even wanting become natural, and they're actually involved in the process. So now I'm just going to say to the customer, one of the things that Honda's really been striving towards is lowering all of the outside noise so that the cabin is nice and quiet. And there's one more thing as well. Now, see, I've already worked my way up. Imagine where we're at in the scene. I'm just about to drive off the lot at this point. And then I'm going to say, and there's one more thing they did. Check this out as I just want you to see if you feel anything as I begin to give this a little bit of gas, right? So now I'm in saying all this, I'm just leading them through the test drive. We're on the road, man. We are on the highway. It's the most amazing thing. This can be done 100% of the time, I promise you. And not only will you get the opportunity to explore more with your customer, make the car the star, you'll build more rapport, and get them all lathered up just before they go in to close this deal or finalize the deal. So hey, I'm going to end it right there. Make sure you get an Auto Dealer University. Make sure that you're thinking about a couple of things. I'm going to leave you with this. The best advice I could give you, I believe, right, is getting to a place as a salesperson where you really truly understand and agree that a customer is not going to close, they're not going to take delivery of your vehicle, they're not going to move forward until they've crossed a plane in their mind. Now, I think we can all agree with that, right? They've got to cross a plane in their mind at some point, whether it's about the deal, the dealership, the car, all of it, whatever. It doesn't matter. But if I know that as a salesperson, and I also know that I'm the biggest influencer in the outcome because they just met me, and I also know that I have creative control, that means that I'm going to learn how to do each of the steps and move transition to each step in what we used to call the road to the sale, but there's just a natural process, no matter what you call it, from the time you meet a customer, whether it's online, in person, whatever, until the point of delivery. There's some things that have to be addressed. And moving through those things fluidly, and then looking at your process and figuring out what makes the most sense and gets the best result the most often, and then doing that 100% of the time in each of those steps, will be amazed at where that will take you, all along understanding that you have the creative control to move that process to the point where the customer crosses the plane in their mind, and you'll close a lot of deals. We'll see you next week.